Well, we're back with our regular legal guest, Michael Broglio from Broglio Inc. And today we're touching on a very important thing because I think most people that take on legal cases never actually know that if something were to happen or in certain circumstances, you are actually allowed to change your attorney to suit your needs. And we're talking to him about that today. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Katlejo.
So, is this normal business practice? I don't know how regularly it happens that people come to you, coming from another lawyer saying, we need you to take over our case because nothing's happening.
I wouldn't say it's regular, but it's certainly common. We certainly take over quite a few cases from other attorneys, but it would really depend. You know, if somebody phoned us up and we could discover or ascertain that the other attorney is really proceeding along with the case quite smoothly and everything's going well, then we'd just generally tell them to stay with that firm of attorneys. There are some negatives, but I wouldn't say that it happens every single day, but there are occasions when you'd need to do it, and normally it would probably be when you're with somebody and that isn't their speciality.
All right. So then, other than that, when it's not their speciality, when else? Let's say if you do go to an attorney whose speciality it is to handle your case, but they're still not handling it the way that you want it to be handled. When do you know it's the time to make the move?
I think firstly you've got to be careful not to be too critical of your attorney. Your perception of what the attorney is doing or should be doing may be incorrect, but I think ultimately you've got to look at those two things and say to yourself, firstly, is this attorney doing the work? Or is my problem with them that they're just not communicating it well enough? Okay. If they're not communicating it well enough, you could discuss that with them and get them to communicate with you more regularly and more often, and if they still won't listen, then you could change. But if they're not doing the work, then obviously that's an insurmountable problem that you can't get past. If they've had the case for 5 or 6 years and it's never been to court and it's going nowhere and they're just trying to negotiate and coming up with stories and new staff members changing all the time, that's the type of story we hear sometimes, and then it generally is in your interest to change.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you spoke about communication, which is a very important aspect of it. Where does the onus lie in terms of communication? Is it my onus as the client to come to you as my lawyer to ask you regularly, or for you as the attorney to come to me and tell me what's going on?
Well, my belief is that obviously it is the attorney's job. The attorney knows what's going on and the attorney must keep you advised. Obviously, sometimes they're going to be telling you the same thing, that they're waiting for a trial date or the trial date is in November next year. Yeah. It's not going to change. But I think it's important, especially in this day and age of communication, that attorneys do take it upon themselves to keep the clients updated on a more regular basis. For example, in my own office, we have what we call our e-file system. And at any stage, should a progress of a case change, it would automatically send out an email to our clients. We'd also do a monthly update to every single one of our clients, generally via email and via post, to tell them this is where your case is at the moment. In addition, we'd have PDF guides and various brochures that we print out and give clients and say, this is where the process goes. These are the stages where it goes slowly. These are the stages where it goes quickly. We'll keep you advised. Sometimes it's going to be like you're hearing the same thing again and again, but behind the scenes, we are going to be working on it. And so I do think that's the attorney's responsibility.
I think that's a great added-on service because, I mean, it helps the client to build a picture of what's going on because you want to know exactly what's going on in your life at that stage. Now, you spoke about the negatives earlier on. What are the negative aspects of changing attorneys?
Well, the negatives are that the previous attorney is obviously going to want to be paid, but that's something that the new attorney can sort out. In my case, for example, if we take over a case, we generally include that other attorney's fees in our fees. So we're not going to charge you any extra, so it wouldn't actually cost you, but you'd have to make sure before going to another attorney that he's going to make the same arrangement for you, because the other attorney is going to be entitled to be paid for some of the work that he's done, and you've just got to understand that. So you don't necessarily want to duplicate work. And I certainly, for example, would never recommend to somebody, if there's a month to go until your trial date, that you then change. Yeah. That's too late.
So in summary then, what would you say then to someone who's considering changing attorneys? What are the things to consider before doing this step?
I think that the first thing to do is to say to your attorney, I'm not happy with you. You're not telling me what's going on. Communicate with them. You saying they're not communicating, you take the step to communicate with them and tell them that and see if the service improves. If it does, that's fine. If it doesn't, then you can move. If, on the other hand, you have any reason to believe that you're with people who aren't moving the case forward, change straight away. There's no point in waiting if there isn't progress in your case.
Michael, once again, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So there we heard from Michael. Communication, communication, communication. All important, not just in your marriage, but also in your relationship with your lawyer. Stick with us on Expresso.
Stay with Expresso and SABC3.